If you want to continue to be one of those uninformed voters, uninformed people in this world, then change the channel because they're going to give you information you can work with. They got human excrement running all around the place.
Your home smells of feces.
Yes.
People peeing in the streets.
Ooh, do you smell something?
Needles in the streets.
These are not tears. We are vomiting from our eyes.
And yet, what they're worried about? The words you use to call criminals. Because there's a certain stigma they don't want criminals to have to deal with.
Could we talk about something else?
I'm going to give you information that's going to make you have to make a decision, have to do something about what's going on in this country.
Something resembling anything.
If you want to get involved in the conversation, 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. Check out my classic podcast. There's so much going on the website, but do something. Get involved.
The Joe Messina Show.
Welcome back to another session of Sanity right here on the Joe Messina Show. Always a pleasure to have you with me. Did I say shoe? No, show. Anyway, always a pleasure to have you here with me. I appreciate the time that you're spending with us here on the air, in the chat room, texting, tweeting, whatever it takes, whatever it is, whatever we need to do. How's that? Okay, really that simple. All right, Evan Sayet hasn't been on the show for a while, but Evan Sayet is going to join me here after the first break and give us his take on the State of the Union address. And, Evan is having a hard time with a few things going on. And Evan was a diehard Democrat right up to 9/11, well, a few days after, when he saw exactly what his party was. And how quickly some people forget, I got to tell you, that's how I feel about it. And the reason I say it that way, right, is that many of those Dems went right back to believing their party again. Even though their party is the one, will be the one that's going to really destroy this country the way they're going. Seriously, no joke. And I don't even know how to say it. I don't know how to do it so it makes sense. Okay? And in all reality, in all seriousness, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've got the information you need. That's why I keep telling you, take notes, get involved, get engaged, find out what's going on. And with Evan, he's now having a hard time because Republicans, he went from Democrat to Republican, staunch Republican, was great with the party, and now he's seeing things going on where he's going, look, Joe, they're the same. I don't disagree with them. That's the sad part. I really don't disagree with them. I've been saying it for years. If you've been listening to this show for any length of time, I never say both parties are the same, because they're not. They do have massive differences between the two of them. Where they are the same, where there basically is no difference, frankly, is with putting money in their pocket, with not wanting, taking money from big companies. The Republicans don't have the spine or what it is that they need. I don't even know what they need. They don't have the spine to make it happen. They don't want to be disliked. My God. Didn't you learn anything from Trump and now Rubio and a few others that have said whatever? That's what you need to be. You need to be not concerned with what people think about you, but more concerned about what you can and or can't get done. Really, really that simple. It doesn't require brain surgery to make it happen. 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. And again, I know I've been talking about it for a few nights now on how President Trump really nailed the Democrats. He really showed what they were made of. And even there were Democrats that were having heartburn over him. Of them, the Dems not standing up, not copying, not clapping, not applauding, or, even acknowledging the woman who lost her daughter on the train, who was savagely stabbed by an illegal. Right? What the heck is all that about? In all seriousness. Anyway, 855-REAL-JOE, 5563. Get involved, get engaged, be part of the solution. All right, and in the 100-year-old man, two of them actually, that were Army vets, military vets, I'll put it that way. Even there, you could see some of them sitting down. Because the thing is, if he gives anybody kudos, anybody credit, what happens? Right? If they give anybody credit, I should say, then Trump gets the credit for it. We can't have that no matter what. And yet, they were outside, the 70 that were not part of this, were outside, right, having their own party, having their own State of the Union as they see it. And they were out there with the Epstein, I love this, with the Epstein victims, the ones that they ignored for 12 years. Come on, let that sink in. They ignored them for 12, not us. They ignored them for 12 years. Right? Just amazing. And yet we will get blamed for it. No question about it. We'll get blamed for it. Right? And because they drive it and we let it go. We let it happen. Well, no more. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for us to sit back and make believe like, everything's okay. We got it under control. We're moving because we don't. We're not on the same page like they are. They're great at this stuff. We suck at it. Just to be blunt. 855 Real Joe. 855-732-5563. Send me an email. joe@joemessina.com. joe@joemessina.com. So much appreciate the time you're spending with us today. Listen, I don't know if you caught it tonight too. Look at the hockey teams. Right? The men's hockey team was stood up. They were recognized. They were noticed. Women's hockey team too. Love it. Because you remember that the media and the Democrats were screaming that, or actually giving kudos to the women's hockey team for not going to see Trump. Right? They were sure that they had made up story for not going. And what happened? What happened? See, they said, no, many of us had prior commitments. We didn't know we were going to get invited to the White House. It's too hard for all of us to change them. And what happens? It's just amazing. They got a press release that night, sent to the White House from the women's hockey team that said what? What did it say? We would love to come. Okay, we had prior commitments. You make the date and we'll be there. What do you think? All right, Joe Messina, your host. A lot coming up with Evan Sayet. And you know what? Hang tight because we're going to be back in a few minutes. And I'm sure we'll have some fun.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
Do you have an American flag that was made everywhere else but America? Joe Messina here, host of the Joe Messina Show. I'm always asking you to buy items made in America whenever you can, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I own and fly an American flag made by Grace Alley, and I love it. I can hardly walk by it without saluting. Let's keep the unemployment rate low and buy American. Grace Alley flags are made right here in America by American workers. These embroidered flags are made well, and you'll be proud to fly them. Stop sending your money overseas. Keep it right here in America. These flags are fully endorsed by the U.S. government for all American flag requirements. You can find them on Amazon, eBay, and at GraceAlley.com. Get one for the house, the office, and your bedroom. Why not? Again, you can find them at Amazon, eBay, and GraceAlley.com. God bless you, and God bless America. Joe Messina here, host of the Joe Messina Show. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. But really, head over to mypillow.com, mypillow.com. Use promo code Joe. You can save up to 70% on some of the products. You got holidays coming up. You got birthdays. You got special occasions, anniversaries. I use the pillow, the pillowcases, the sheets. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff over there. Come on, do some website shopping. mypillow.com. Promo code Joe. You'll save some money. Come on back to the show, and you'll hear some great stuff. Thanks for being with me. God bless. Go spend some money.
J&M Enterprises is a full-service screen printing company. They print on shirts, pants, hats, cups, frisbees, sports bags, sweatshirts, tote bags, and most any other promotional items. J&M has been family-owned and operated. J&M takes pride in providing high-quality products and services because we care. Our state-of-the-art equipment enables us to print high volume with superior quality on any job. We print on clothing lines for schools, businesses, sports teams, and bands nationwide. Our team is committed to total customer satisfaction and the quality you should expect from a professional screen printing company. J&M, family owned and operated. Give us a call. We guarantee a great product and a great price. 800-462-0002. For a price quote, 800-468-0002. Or go to the web at www.jnm.cc.
Austin Powers always defeats me because he has Joe.
Joe?
Joe. The life force, the essence, the right stuff. What the French call a certain, I don't know what.
We are back at it again. Joe Messina, your host. Always a pleasure to have you with me. 855-REAL-JOE. 855-732. Come on, everybody loves horns, man. Who doesn't love horns? You know? Always a pleasure to have you with me. 855-REAL-JOE. 855-732-5563. Look, I'm not going to waste any time because I don't get him on that often. I love this guy. I love when he's on with me. Evan Sayet joins me as he does from time to time, and he is probably one of the leading conservative voices, political voices in the arena today. He's also a great comedian. I know you haven't been doing that for a while, but man, I still think you're hilarious. I watched some of your old videos out and about on that big bad interweb. And he's also known for having the most viewed lecture in the, what was that? Come on. Heritage Foundation. There you go. I try to do it from memory because I'm getting older and I don't want to sound old. So he's got the most viewed lecture in the Heritage Foundation history. So, Evan, thanks for being with me.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Joe. And you know what? At this point, given what's going on at the Heritage Foundation, you're forgetting their name is not a bad thing.
But you're right. No, you're 100%. What has happened to these organizations? You know, you were just talking about how long some of us have been doing this. And you're right. I've seen some of these organizations who we thought were strong, staunch, willing to defend, kind of peter off.
Yeah, well, what most people don't recognize is that MAGA was never a unified ideology. Right. We always assumed it meant conservative because so many of us came from the conservative side of things, but we all want to make America great again, and the only thing we agree on is that means defeating the political left. We were all unified in recognizing that there's something very sick and very destructive about wokeism. Well, now that wokeism has been kicked into a little bit of a recession, and the unifying voice behind the MAGA movement, Donald Trump, cannot be reelected, now he has no definite heir apparent. So we're now fighting and finding out where you really stand within this big umbrella that we called MAGA, but never really had anything that unified us except our enmity for the left.
No, you're so right. Look at with the sadness of what happened with Charlie Kirk. Again, to your point with Donald Trump. We're kind of, I won't say we're floundering, because I don't want to say that, but everybody's kind of got their own idea of what MAGA means. They got their own idea of what conservatism means, and I think we're starting to scatter and starting to shred a bit, aren't we?
Well, we absolutely are, and you were exactly right to bring up Charlie, because he did give us a unifying voice. And so with Trump now essentially a lame duck, I mean, he still has, some time on his term, but without the ability to run again, who is his heir apparent? And, you got J.D. Vance, who is not my favorite person in the world. But at least with Charlie, you had this grown-up unifying voice, and Trump, you had this, well, I wouldn't say grown-up, but at least a unifying persona. Now that they're both gone, one literally and one figuratively, there's an expression, revolutions eat their own, or sometimes revolutions devour their own. And the reason they do is everybody's unified when you first have to defeat the evil that is. But once that evil has been defeated, what you then build from there, and very often you'll find that allies in the revolution then turn out to be enemies once the revolution has been won. I mean, I look back at the Green Revolution, in the Middle East a few years back, where we all thought it was going to be this Jeffersonian democracy in Egypt because that's what the people wanted. But as soon as the people overthrew the government, there was the Muslim Brotherhood, because they were organized and they had the guns and they actually took over. The Russian Revolution was not a communist revolution. The Russian Revolution was basically a populist revolution, but then once it was overthrown, it was the communists who were better organized and more willing to engage in the types of horrible things. So we were allied with people in order to overthrow wokeism. But now we've got to find out exactly who and what we are.
You're talking about those things. I'm thinking as you're talking, and I'm saying to myself, look at what's happened to our youth. You and I, and you probably longer than me, have been screaming about what's going on at our colleges, the indoctrination that's going on in the schools with our kids, what they're being told. You talk about the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of anti-Americanism. You just saw it at the Olympics. I mean, they have done a fantastic left, and the communists have done a fantastic job, truly, of brainwashing our kids into hating this country and hating other groups, haven't they?
Indeed. And look, that's the most important thing. My new book that I discussed with you a little earlier that I'm still writing is on how miserable the youth are. And by the way, by youth, I don't just mean 20 or, the teens or even the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, because there's successive generations that have been raised to there's nothing they're allowed to love. They're only allowed to hate. So they don't love America, but they don't love any other country either. They don't love Jesus, but they don't love any other God either. They don't love great music, but they don't love any other music either. There is nothing positive, nothing affirmative, which is why Make America Great Again, and then also the Christian revival of Charlie Kirk gave these people at least something to love and not just only hate.
Yeah, it is amazing, and I, some of these people, so I don't want to put them all down, but people are getting up there and they're speaking for Turning Point, and they're out all over the place talking like they're going to have the same effect that Charlie had, and not that Charlie was a god, but you're not going to have the same effect. You don't have the same character. You don't have the same knowledge. You're not as young as him. You're not appealing. Charlie appealed to the young males like no other, and was helping us to rebuild, what society has said, you can't be too male, right? You can't be too masculine.
Charlie was a I can't even say once in a generation, maybe once in a lifetime talent. In addition to being correct about the things that he said, he had a forcefulness, he had he had all of the things. There were lots of civil rights leaders in the 60s, but we remember the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. partly because he had a unique way of delivering the message. You know, you go into years after that. Lots of other people, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, a whole bunch of others tried to take up the mantle of the Reverend Martin Luther King, but they couldn't because they didn't have. So Charlie was a once-in-a-lifetime talent, and I use the word talent in the best of senses.
Evan,
you know?
we got to go for a quick. We got to go for a
Yep.
quick break because we believe in capitalism, not communism. So we'll be right back.
J&M Enterprises is a full-service screen printing company. They print on shirts, pants, hats, cups, frisbees, sports bags, sweatshirts, tote bags, and most any other promotional items. J&M has been family-owned and operated. J&M takes pride in providing high-quality products and services because we care. Our state-of-the-art equipment enables us to print high volume with superior quality on any job. We print on clothing lines for schools, businesses, sports teams, and bands nationwide. Our team is committed to total customer satisfaction and the quality you should expect from a professional screen printing company. J&M, family owned and operated. Give us a call. We guarantee a great product and a great price. 800-462-0002. For a price quote, 800-468-0002. Or go to the web at www.jnm.cc.
I got hooked on fentanyl. Before you do, look in the mirror. First, my teeth started to rot. Then, my skin turned blue. I started to age very rapidly. I lost my hair, my dignity, and every friend. And I will only be remembered as that drug user. Don't take fentanyl, because if you do, you'll be dead. Like me.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
Do you have an American flag that was made everywhere else but America? Joe Messina here, host of the Joe Messina Show. I'm always asking you to buy items made in America whenever you can, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I own and fly an American flag made by Grace Alley, and I love it. I can hardly walk by it without saluting. Let's keep the unemployment rate low and buy American. Grace Alley flags are made right here in America by American workers. These embroidered flags are made well, and you'll be proud to fly them. Stop sending your money overseas. Keep it right here in America. These flags are fully endorsed by the U.S. government for all American flag requirements. You can find them on Amazon, eBay, and at GraceAlley.com. Get one for the house, the office, well, and your bedroom. Why not? Again, you can find them at Amazon, eBay, and GraceAlley.com. God bless you, and God bless America.
Good day. I am Inspector Jacques Lizot of the French police.
Sono Vincenzo Rocaras Guardialupi Brancaleoni.
And your name?
Vincenzo Rocaras Guardialupi Brancaleoni.
Oh, that is your name. I thought you were ordering in Italian. Once again.
Vincenzo Rocaras Guardialupi Brancaleoni.
Vincenzo Don Corleone.
We are back at it. Joe Messina, your host. Always a pleasure to have you with me. 855-REAL-JOE. 855-732-5563. But we're not taking a call. We're going to listen to my buddy Evan. Evan Sayet joins us. I love it when he's on the show. He's a leading voice in the sane conservative movement. He's also an author, a speaker, and he's become one of the nation's leading conservative and political influencers. And check it out. All you got to do is type in his name, Evan Sayet, at Amazon. He's got some great books that you can partake of, and it will enlighten you, and I mean that in a positive way. Evan, always thanks for being with me, man.
My pleasure. And you know what impresses people, Joe? Here's something you should say about me in the future. And he's written 5 speeches for President Trump.
Okay. didn't know if you wanted me to say that.
Well, it's funny. I will tell people that I gave the single most viewed lecture in Heritage Foundation's history, and they'll yawn. I will tell them that I wrote the single most read article in Town Hall's history, and they'll yawn. But if I tell them that I wrote the 2016 Al Smith dinner speech, they cheer and carry me around on their shoulders. For some reason, that speech in 2016, it just people because it was one of the few times he was face to face with Hillary.
Yeah.
There were the debates, and then there was the Al Smith dinner. And at the Al Smith dinner, it's when he just ripped her apart. But obviously, he did it with humor because I wrote it. But that speech, according to the head speechwriter, a guy named Tony Dolan, he said that polling showed that was one of the three reasons Trump won the election. They saw the polling. The third debate, he shot up. He gave a speech at Gettysburg, and that was 2. And then the Al Smith dinner speech was the one, according to Tony Dolan, was the one that won the election.
Wow.
Well, God. Can I tell the story very briefly? Is they came to me because I don't know if your audience knows the format of the Al Smith dinner, but basically it takes place right after the last of the debates, just before the election. It's a big fundraiser for the Archdiocese, the Catholic Archdiocese of New York, and everybody's in attendance, and the 2 candidates are there. And they come out one by one, and they do a few jokes at their own expense, a few self-deprecating jokes. They throw a couple of light taps at their opponent, and it's to show, hey, look, we can, even though the campaign was rough and tumble, we're all Americans. Look at us, we can get along. And I told Jared, if the candidate, because he was candidate Trump still at that point, if the candidate comes out and does that, you have lost the election. If yesterday you said she should be in jail, and tomorrow you're going to say she should be in jail, but here you are face to face with her and you play nice, you have lost all credibility. Yep. He said, you know what? You're right. Write what you want. And it was funny, but it was so nasty that, Joe, it's the Archdiocese of New York. It's Catholics. They have to forgive you. And they were booing Trump.
Well, that speech reminded me of some of the speeches I heard. Where do you think? At the Dean Martin roasts. They were vicious. Some of those speeches, I know they were done in humor, but they were pretty vicious.
Well, I actually wrote some jokes for those. I don't know if you remember the comedian Red Buttons.
Oh, yeah. Of course. I'm as old as you almost. Don't remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had a shtick that he did. Why are we giving this man a dinner when so and so never got a dinner?
Yeah, right.
And I wrote some of those for him. I was a gun for hire. In between writing shows or prior to my being on staff somewhere, I'd make money and make connections and have another name on my resume by freelancing and writing jokes. I wrote a ton of jokes for Rodney through the years. A good number of others. I don't know how much I want to mention names because I don't know how. Once they pay me, it's their joke. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I wrote a ton of jokes for Rodney. The very first joke I ever wrote for Rodney, my sex life. It's like a Star Wars character. Han Solo.
Oh, God. Boom. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
Yeah, well, that was actually the first joke I ever sold. Yeah.
Oh, God. I gotta tell you again. Over the years that I've known you and the speeches you've given and the talks you've given, and even there were a couple of events I went to where you were doing some of your comedic stuff. It's like everything else. Laughter. I think laughter helps people remember things. Laughter helps people put things in perspective. And I think I learned a lot from you through those times and through some of those things. So
well, good.
I very much appreciate that.
Then my work here is almost done.
No, I'm almost done. What are you talking about? When my hair gets silver white, I'm done. That's my key to go. Oh,
God. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I mean, how do we segue back to serious? Because I did want to finish the conversation before the commercial.
Go ahead.
Which was that Charlie had a very good way of bridging this MAGA gap, which is that with the exception of a very few people like Nick Fuentes, there was nobody in the conservative movement that he would not allow to speak on his stage. And so as much as he disagreed with Tucker about Israel and the Jews, let's say, he still gave Tucker, a place on at the table. Because in the end, everybody respected him enough, and he was powerful enough with his organization and with his charisma and his being to hold it all together. But once he died, not only are there people vying to be the leadership of MAGA, but there are people vying to be the leadership of TPUSA. And suddenly you have people who were kind of holding their tongue a little bit, like Tucker, just coming in on this side of telling, being as big an anti-Semite as he is. Now that he doesn't have Charlie to rein him in, he's showing his true colors. And you're seeing that from a number of people who, prior to Charlie's death and prior to Trump becoming, I hate to use this phrase because it's not exactly appropriate, but a lame duck in that he can't be reelected. He can't run again. So you don't have Trump holding people together. You don't have Charlie and his organization holding people together. It's natural anyway. Now that wokeism has been exposed as ludicrous, it's natural that we would turn on each other some, but we are really seeing some very ugly things happening from people like Tucker Carlson, people like Candace Owen, people like Nick Fuentes, who are under the banner of Christianity, but Tucker's not a Christian, right?
No.
Christ didn't hate the Jews. Christ didn't, at any rate. And so what had been holding us together is no longer holding us together. And it's time to have a civil war. Hopefully it's more emphasis on the civil than on the war.
You're my optimist buddy, because I'm thinking there's going to be a physical civil war from within both parties, frankly, and from without. Because within the party, you just brought up, Tucker Carlson, you brought Candace Owens and others that were quote unquote superstars of the conservative message. Maybe not mega, but definitely superstars of the conservative message. They got a long way. Everybody loved Tucker. Everybody trusted Tucker. Now you're right. Now you're seeing these true colors come out. Candace, I met personally a few times, was with her.
Yeah.
I don't think she changed much. I think she just kept it quiet more than she does now. But that's beside the point.
I think so too. She had reason to. Is that she was a social climber, and so when she climbed the ladder via the Daily Wire, she climbed the ladder via PragerU. She climbed the ladder, and each of them saw through her and fired her. And now she doesn't have a boss. Then in order to continue to climb, she had to at least somewhat placate the boss, as we all do. We all have to placate the boss.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing about Tucker that people don't remember is prior to his relatively short stint at Fox, he was a shill. He was a paid lackey at PBS, CNN, and then MSNBC. Every time that they needed a doofus to pretend to be a conservative, they said, "Who can we get? We have to have one token conservative.
Yep.
Who will play the schmuck for us?" And
Hold.
I'll put on my red bow tie.
You got to hold the token conservative, because we got to go for a break. We'll be back in a minute. I promise people I won't let him forget that. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Joe Messina Show. have an American flag that was made everywhere else but America? Joe Messina here, host of the Joe Messina Show. I'm always asking you to buy items made in America whenever you can, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I own and fly an American flag made by Grace Alley, and I love it. I can hardly walk by it without saluting. Let's keep the unemployment rate low and buy American. Grace Alley flags are made right here in America by American workers. These embroidered flags are made well, and you'll be proud to fly them. Stop sending your money overseas. Keep it right here in America. These flags are fully endorsed by the U.S. government for all American flag requirements. You can find them on Amazon, eBay, and at GraceAlley.com. Get one for the house, the office, well, and your bedroom. Why not? Again, you can find them at Amazon, eBay, and GraceAlley.com. God bless you, and God bless America. We'll be back in a few minutes. Joe Messina, your host. Listen, head up to the website, joemessina.com, where you can listen live, you can watch live, you can get involved in the live chat room. Send me an email, joe@joemessina.com. That's joe@joemessina.com. Lots smarter people than I in that chat room. Hang out, though. Lines are open. 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go far.
Take my way. That's the highway, that's the bed. Get your kicks on Route 66.
J&M Enterprises is a full-service screen printing company. They print on shirts, pants, hats, cups, frisbees, sports bags, sweatshirts, tote bags, and most any other promotional items. J&M has been family-owned and operated. J&M takes pride in providing high-quality products and services because we care. Our state-of-the-art equipment enables us to print high volume with superior quality on any job. We print on clothing lines for schools, businesses, sports teams, and bands nationwide. Our team is committed to total customer satisfaction and the quality you should expect from a professional screen printing company. J&M, family-owned and operated. Give us a call. We guarantee a great product and a great price. 800-462-0002. For a price quote, 800-468-0002. Or go to the web at www.jnm.cc.
Do the letters IRS give you anxiety? I'm Dan Pilla. I've defended people from the IRS for more than 40 years. My book, How to Get Tax Amnesty, created the tax resolution industry and is responsible for helping hundreds of thousands of people. It can help you too. If you're a non-filer or facing IRS enforcement right now, your case is unique. You need real help, not cookie-cutter advice. My clients get my personal attention. Buy my book at danpilla.com and get a free consultation directly with me. That's danpilla.com. Let's start solving your tax problem right now.
So far, this show has been awfully slow.
Except for the one I saw you do last Thursday.
When we were coming over here tonight, I was a little concerned about his driving. The minute he got to the wheel, I was worried. The left rear wheel he was going to do.
I look around the room and I realize now, aside from Clint Eastwood, I'm the biggest name here.
And now, the professor of political incorrectness, the naysayer of nonsense, the cure for Democrat dementia, here's Joe Messina.
We're back at it again. Joe Messina, your host. Always a pleasure to have you with me. 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. Get involved, get engaged, be part of the solution. I say it all the time, so nothing new here. Be part of the solution. That you got to get informed first. That's the only way you know how to put it out there and how to speak to other people about it. All right, let me bring him back on. Evan Sayet. He's a leading voice in the sane conservative movement here. He's also an author and a speaker. And he's become one of the nation's leading voices, leading conservative and political influencers and voices in the business. So I always love when he's on with me. Check out Amazon. Put his name in there. You know, he's got plenty of books. One of the favorites that I've talked to people about is The Kindergarten of Eden, How the Modern Liberal Thinks. And he and I have always had a running joke going, look, it's not really the right title. The Modern Liberal doesn't think. At least I don't think they do. Anyhow, Evan, thanks for being with me.
My pleasure. And there is thinking behind their rejection of thinking. And just very quickly, it is this, because this has served. The speech that book is based on is the one that I gave to the Heritage Foundation, the single most viewed lecture in their entire history. And people called it the unified theory of liberalism, because once you understand that, you understand why so many good, smart, decent, loving, caring, generous people, all right, my friends, my neighbors, my colleagues in Hollywood, they're not evil people, and they're not stupid people. So why do they reject fact and reason and side only and always with evil, failure, and wrong? How do you look at the Middle East and decide the problem is the liberal democracy of Israel and not the homophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic Islamists? How do you get it so wrong? And I was able to answer that in a way that is so satisfying to so many. Because it's not satisfying to us, Joe, to say everybody who disagrees with me is stupid. We know a lot of smart people who vote Democrat.
Yep.
And it's not satisfying to say, well, everybody who disagrees with me is evil. Because we know a lot of people who vote Democrat who aren't evil. So why do they reject fact and reason and side only and always with evil, failure, and wrong? And I give that answer first in that original speech, and then in the book that you refer to, The Kindergarten of Eden, How the Modern Liberal Thinks. And the bottom line is that they conflate discriminating thought, thinking, with the evils of discrimination. Anything that you believe is going to be so tainted by your prejudices that the only way not to be a bigot is to never think at all. And so they must pretend that they don't know that Islam is homophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic. How else do you get queers for Palestine?
Yeah.
The only reason is they ignore what they know because what they know could be prejudices. So they eliminate all prejudice, and by doing so, they eliminate all thinking.
Yeah, it is amazing to me when I hear them speak. I hear some of the things that I got going on. You know that I'm heavily involved in education, and I hear what comes down from that side of the world. You know, Evan, when you start looking at the numbers, when you start looking at the kids that can't read, the kids that can't add, that are not at grade level in any way, shape, manner, or form, don't have basic information, they're all from major cities across the country. And who's in control of our education system in these major cities? It's the Democrats. And their focus is so on political, the political garbage that these kids aren't even learning how to read or write.
Well, they don't want them to know how to read or write, because if you read or write, then you might learn something. The answer to everything is nothing. That's what is good? Nothing. What is evil? Nothing. What is beautiful? Nothing. What is ugly? Nothing. So how do you, when the answer to everything is nothing, what do you teach? And as I'm writing in my new book, the job of the teacher now is only to unteach the bigotries that the child may have learned from outside of the school, such as in the home or the family. So their job is to unteach the evils, the misogyny of the patriarchy. Their job is to unteach the xenophobia of patriotism. But they can't teach anything in its stead, because if they teach something is better than something else, then they're undermining their own ideology. Nothing. So if they can't read, great. If they can't add, great. It's not an accident that it's not like they are simply focusing too much on the wrong thing. They're intentionally not educating our children because knowledge is evil if you're a Democrat.
You know, they're talking about the Jim Crow laws, and I want to see if you agree with me on this one. And I've been telling people, look, this is nothing new for the Democrats. Remember, it was the Democrats that were behind Jim Crow. And during the Jim Crow era, you could not educate a black person. It was illegal to do so, because they knew that if you educated that black person, that they would find a way to get out of the situation. They would be well educated enough to get out of that situation they were in. Well, they've done the same thing to education in the schools. They dumb down these kids. In California, we don't even have an exit exam anymore. You're seeing across the country that less than 50% of the kids graduating from high school can read at grade level or do math at grade level. So they have raised a bunch of young people that have the equivalent knowledge the black folks had in the days of Jim Crow, and it was done intentionally. Your thoughts?
Oh, indeed, and I wish I could recall from my book, The Woke Supremacy, but I point out how the cities are even laid out the way that the plantations were, where the people of color live in a totally different area, where that area is policed within the neighborhood itself. Defund the police in every single way. And again, I wish I had prepared for this question, because I write about it at length in The Woke Supremacy, how everything about Democrat-run cities is exactly like it was on the plantation. The black people live just close enough so they can come by the house to clean the toilets, but just far enough away that they won't come visit at night.
Right. Yeah, I don't, again, I look at this stuff and I think you think it through, right? And you say, this is not a mistake. This is not something that they tripped on. They planned this out over decades.
Well, as I point out in the original speech I gave in the book, The Kindergarten of Eden, if it were a mistake, they'd be right more often. They'd be on the side of good, right, beautiful, and true more often just by accident. If it were really just indiscriminateness, sometimes they'd be right, sometimes they'd be wrong. Most of the time they'd be somewhere in the middle. But instead they always side with evil, failure, and wrong, and here's why. If the first law of the unified theory is that they were raised to believe that indiscriminateness is the opposite of discrimination, right? So if you don't want to be a bigot, then you have to be indiscriminate. Well, that only gets you part of the way there. Why are they always wrong? Because indiscriminateness of thought doesn't lead to indiscriminateness of beliefs. It leads to believing that success is unjust. Why should a person, a nation, a culture, a religion succeed if it's not better than any other? So if they're not allowed to recognize anything's better than anything else, that doesn't mean that they side equally with everybody. It means that anybody who succeeds must have somehow cheated, and anybody who fails must have somehow been victimized. And so they will side at every turn with the failure and against the success at every turn.
Okay, I want to go into this deeper with you, but here's the deal. We only got about 3 minutes left. I want your take on what happened the other night at the president's speech.
Well, if you're talking about why they wouldn't stand, stand if you agree that your job is to represent the American people. The most self-evident definitional question that could possibly be asked. Do you believe that your job is to represent the American people or somebody else, like the illegal immigrants? And the Democrats did not stand for taking the side of the American people. Why? Because they don't believe they're Americans. They see themselves as citizens of the world.
Yep,
they are
globalists.
representatives of, right? Which is why they want open borders, because they don't want in America. It's why they don't want voter ID, because they don't want non-citizens to be prevented from voting. They don't see themselves as Americans, and in fact, worse still. Go back to what I just said a half a minute ago or less, which is that anything that's successful, they must be against. Well, what's more successful than the United States of America?
Yep.
And so not only are they not on the side of America, not only do they believe that America must somehow have cheated, but given the fact that we are the greatest success in all of human history, they believe that we are the biggest injustice in all of human history. So not only are they not on our side, they have no greater enemy than the United States of America.
Yeah. Hey, Trump, did he hit it out of the park?
Trump is Trump. It was a terrific speech. Personally, I miss the days of statesmanship and lofty language and whatnot. But given that Trump is Trump, it was an A+ for him.
And you know what, Evan, in all fairness to, and that today is today. You have people now yelling, Congress people running nasties, yelling nasties. The days of statesmanship is waning. How's that? I'll put it that way.
Well, let me tell one more thing, because I'm not all that prolific, but when I do write, it tends to resonate. The article I wrote for Town Hall, which is the single most read article by far and away in their entire history, was an explanation as to why we support Donald Trump. And it's because the days of expecting your leader to be dignified when their side isn't, tying our hands behind our back by putting another nice guy up for office, putting the next John McCain, putting the next Mitt Romney. The days of those kinds of candidates is over, and it's over because we can't continue to fight. What they think it's a knife fight, so they bring a gun, and we don't even know it's a fight at all. We think it's a debate.
Evan, God bless you, man. I love you so much. I'm so glad you're on my side. I'll put it that way, on the side of the American people. And some people.
Joe,
go ahead.
Joe, I love you too, my friend. I've loved you a long time.
Right. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Never mind. We'll be all right, guys. I'm back with you the next hour. We'll have Evan on soon again. God bless. Have a great rest of the day.